Greetings shippers, welcome back, and it's time to tackle something that not only was the winner of this month's monthly Patreon vote, but also has been long requested. We're finally going to be talking about Wolfstar. This is going to take us back into the realm of fandom juggernaut Harry Potter. This is the pairing of Sirius Black and Remus Lupin, a pairing that has seen many surges, and there's just a lot to talk about. As always, follow on social media so you can keep up to date with just chatting about what's coming up on this channel and about fandom in general. It's a good time, I swear. Now, we have a lot to tackle, so let's take a look at Wolfstar. Now, Wolfstar is not the oldest pairing out there, not by a long shot in terms of fandom. However, within the realms of the fandom renaissance, which is attributed to different sources but happens to coincide with the rise of the internet, and some feel that Harry Potter itself has a large part to play, it is an older pairing, and as a result, it has changed over time, and has quite the backlog. As a result, one of the most common questions is, why Wolfstar is a ship name? For in the fervor of naming ships that comes when a ship is young, the rationale can sometimes be lost as time passes. So firstly, the name. The wolf aspect comes from Lupin, who not only has the lupine hint in his name, but is a werewolf. And as for star, that comes from the fact that Sirius is the name of a major constellation, Canis Major, also known as the dog star, and Sirius's animagus form is a dog, hence the name. A well thought out ship name, though it occasionally went/goes by others, such as puppy shipping or the one true way. The latter gives a good indication as to this pair's popularity, which came to the fore after the release of the third Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, released in 1999, the book that also introduced both of these characters. A book that for many is a favorite in the series, showcasing a beginning of change in the appealing yet somewhat formulaic in the minds of some critics format of the first two novels, namely school, threat, epic Voldemort-related battle, though that would return. The Prisoner of Azkaban did much for expanding Harry's world, not just in mythos, though it did introduce many new creatures and concepts, but in terms of characters. While Harry Potter had already begun to amass a wide range of side characters, both young and adult, the attention of most remained on the main trio and other Hogwarts students, though there were breakout exceptions, such as the both beloved and hated Professor Snape. However, when it came to shipping, for the most part, it was between the students, or between the students and these other characters, most often aged up, sometimes not, as Snary and Hermione both enjoyed large followings, which tapered off as the films began to be released, and as the books continued to introduce more viable and some would argue appropriate shipping options. However, the third book was unique, as it not only introduced new key mentor and familial figures for Harry, but a whole new era and history for them. A more fleshed out history than given to many side characters in the series, that had come before or would come after, this being canonically given, not canonical extras revealed in interviews years later or on Pottermore. No, the relationship between Remus and Sirius is important, in some ways central to that novel, and the events in Harry's world, having played a key part in shaping not just them, but the characters around them. And indeed, some felt there was a great deal of coding in the text, particularly as other codes were already being applied to Lupin. So let us quickly backtrack to just what is this history that drew people into these two characters and led to a great deal of people shipping them. So as always, let us meet the players. First off, Remus Lupin. At the time, the latest defense against the dark arts teacher to take the doomed position. Lupin is quiet, measured, but quick-witted and extremely intelligent, and can be quite calculating and secretive, skills he's come by quite naturally. A good teacher with a genuine care for his students, Lupin keeps his baser self hidden, keeping most negative emotions in check, and his understanding, some would argue to a fault. He becomes a reassuring presence, used to putting his needs to the side, and used to working to serve a society that oppresses him, even as he fights to save it. Extremely multifaceted, he quickly became a fan favorite to explore, as readers and later viewers wanted to explore just what was going on behind that measured facade, if it truly was one. And it is always intriguing to explore that duality between man and beast. Fans also took to Sirius Black, Harry's potential guardian and in many ways a tragic hero, who some would argue was gone too soon. Sirius Black started off a brash young man, fiercely loyal to his friends, a positive trait that could turn vicious when turned against his enemies. He sacrificed much of his life and himself in an attempt to help his friends and the wizarding world, and in the process lost many of the best parts of himself. However, with the help of freedom, forgiveness, and particularly Lupin, Sirius begins to regain what he had lost: friendship, family, and some would argue love. He becomes a more level-headed, if never fully healed from his time in Azkaban, wizard, though of course he's still hot-headed. Which leads to the why ship these two. Well, for many it is a balance. They feel that these two characters balance each other out with complementary personality traits. These two met as children and become friends in the group known as the Marauders, a group that spawned much of their own fics, with some fans focusing exclusively on the Marauders era, which is also heavily shipped, and usually the source of happier works, though often tinged with tragedy, as canon must force these two apart. Canonically, these two are dear friends, and fans of this ship are quick to find lines to support just how close they are meant to be to each other. And on top of the overt lines, there are of course the events. Black keeping Lupin company when he transformed. Some felt more closely, as unlike the others, he too had a canine form. These friends protected each other and cared for one another, and it is clear how the separation and loss of that friendship hurt them both. Which of course ultimately leads to their reunion and reconciliation, a fast forgiveness born of much love and a closeness that few others can replicate. These scenes also played extremely well in the film, with both actors bringing much passion to the moment, particularly the much gift embrace. Seeing how far Lupin would go for Black, coupled with the past history, was enough for many shippers to be off. And on top of that, many felt that Lupin in particular was coded as a queer character. This being coding as a verb, not a noun, wherein the definition becomes to assign meaning in a euphemistic or indirect way. These codes are often more easily read by the group at whom they are targeting, although there can be cases where unintended meanings are inferred. For Remus, this led to the feeling that his lycanthropy and how it was treated in the wizarding world was a clear parallel for real-world treatment of AIDS sufferers, a theory that Rowling herself confirmed when she was asked by a fan, asked if Lupin's condition could be read as a reflection of those who suffer from stigmatized conditions. Though there are many stigmatized conditions, AIDS came to the fore due to its extremity and also for what some felt was significant coding within the text. Rowling stands by this too, as she was quick to correct those who stated that this was revisionist history in 2016 in some tweets, reiterating that this is a viewpoint that she has held for a long time and not something new that fans are just now discovering. So what else is read as coding? While Lupin having to keep his werewolfism a secret is read as many as code for being closeted, particularly as it coincides with how he cannot talk of Sirius. In the minds of many fans, this links the two occurrences. As a result, many read Lupin's story as that of a closeted gay man struggling to survive in a society that does not accept him. Now, there are some who find these readings problematic, particularly the tragic AIDS sufferer who ultimately, as it turns out, dies, particularly as he was a last-minute swap for Arthur Weasley. Others are uncomfortable with the equation of gay male homosexuality with a disease. Others felt that it was a poor allegory and didn't really work, as lycanthropy is quite different from having an ongoing, progressively degenerative disease. Although some note that an allegory doesn't need to be exact, as it is meant to be an interpretation and not a direct representation. And there have, of course, as with all things Rowling of late, been significant discussions as to how intentional all of this truly was. However, some felt the subtext was so significant it needed to be translated, and in the film and adaptation directed by Alfonso Cuarón, released in 2004, David Thewlis, who played Lupin, stated that Alfonso Cuarón in the rehearsals, without J.K. Rowling's knowledge, told me that my character was in fact gay, so I'd been playing a part like a gay man for quite a long time, until it turned out that I indeed got married to Tonks. I changed the whole performance after that. Just saw it as a phase he went through. So for those who felt they saw subtext in the film, know that you were not imagining it. This is also a good note of how bisexuality and other sexualities do not often factor into discussions of this nature, though they are coming to do so more at the time of this recording. Be that as it may, for many fans, be it movie or book, the more they looked for, the more they found. Moments such as the 40-line stare, a period in which readers found that the length between Remus being said to be looking at Black and then looking away from him was 40 lines, became commonplace in fandom, a byproduct of excitement surrounding the ship. Indeed, for many fans, this ship is one tinged with betrayal, or at least disappointment, whether one came to it because of queer-coded subtext or because they felt the characters had a connection that they wanted to further explore, particularly fans who are more intrigued by the adult world than the student one. Regardless, many felt that this was a genuine candidate to become a real couple within the book verse, and the pairing soared, particularly the Marauders verse, for these two were not seen again in any significant fashion until Book 5, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, published in 2003, which was released just shortly before the third film, meaning that there was a duality and overlap of this ship and the public perception, which greatly aided its popularity. As for Order of the Phoenix, this book was seen as a tragedy by many shippers, as it contained what many viewed as the senseless demise of Sirius Black, or at best, a cheap way to extort even more pathos out of Harry, though for those who were less invested in the adult side character's world, it played off quite well for the most part. However, fics abounded, some coming from the new film and some from this book, particularly as it was clear that the two were most certainly living together at Grimmauld Place, as it was Black's childhood home and Lupin really had nowhere to go. So there was a wide range from domestic fics, rediscovering one another fics, and of course fix-its. Many fix-its. The disappointment of those seeking canon for this pairing was further compounded when Lupin took up with Tonks, though it is a hard press to find those who do not like Teddy. So what is the status of this pairing at the time of this recording? Well, this ship is a classic and is always growing as people going through the series, be it book or film, discover these two for the first time, or it can alternatively bring people into the fold through its numerous fan works, as by this point the Harry Potter fandom world is so large it is quite possible to encounter it before the source material. As for where it stands canonically, fans continue to push for some kind of confirmation to this day, with people asking for confirmation of Black sexuality society as recently as 2016. This discussion may in many ways indicate a disconnect between how Rowling views her world and what fans want her world to represent, as in 2007 Rowling had this to say of LGBTQ+ characters within her world. If we're talking about prejudiced people within the wizarding world, what they care most about is your blood status. So I think you could be gay, pureblood, and totally without any kind of criticism from the Lucius Malfoys of the world. I don't think that would be something that would interest him in the slightest, but I can't answer for all witches and wizards because I think it's a matter of the heart. It would be directly parallel to our world, an answer that many view as a non-commitment, especially as it is not being reflected within her works. Although on the flip side, some feel that when she does attempt to be more inclusive, she is merely pandering. All of this can make the Harry Potter fandom a landscape that some wish to steer clear of. All of this is important to understand why this ship is so important, as it is much beloved for a variety of reasons. Some love it for representation, some for chemistry, some for world building, and some for all of the above and more. And headcanons abound, from the two being together the entire time to a doomed childhood romance, and that's just scratching the surface. So with all of that said, does everybody ship Wolfstar? Just like all ships, this one has its detractors and its cons. So what is it that keeps some away from this rather large and some would argue obvious ship? Firstly, the metaphorical elephant in the room, a pink one known as Nymphadora Tonks. There are those who really took to this pairing and are drawn to its overt canonicity, and counter those who argue that it was underdeveloped by noting so were most pairings in those books, as romance is not really the novel's strongest suit. And others felt that the two simply complemented each other better, and that Tonks, being an outsider and different herself, could really help Lupin heal and provide him with support. In fact, many were drawn to their story, especially as it went on, they dealt with the complications of trying to keep a marriage together. Many fans found inspiration in their story, of love persevering in difficult times. In short, that pairing also meant a lot to a variety of people, so in the minds of some, it is quite a shame that they are pitted against each other, particularly as some deal with their frustration by bashing upon Tonks as a character. Others don't mind the pairing in theory or in Fanon, however feel that this may be the case of fans attempting to impose Fanon onto canon, and that the novels are finished, done. Closed books, pun intended, and that as much as some may desire it, Wolfstar is not canon, which does not even take away from it, though in the minds of others it does. As discussed in our Grindeldore vid, expectations and discussions around Harry Potter have very much changed since the books were first released. And this includes in fandom. In general, there is a discourse in the Harry Potter fandom about whether fans are expecting too much, and it often comes to a head depending upon how much weight one places upon extra material that is revealed outside of the source material itself. Others, particularly those who ship the characters with other people, can grow frustrated with the ship's size and seeming ubiquity, as the pairing is often included in works as background pairings, even if it is not the focus. As for many shippers, it is simply a fan in reality, which for those who do not ship it can make it very difficult to escape. However, some are not sold on this based on the text. This of course can be because one is not drawn to these adult characters, instead wanting to spend more time with Harry and the gang, which means that many find themselves drawn to other large ships, such as Drarry, Hermione, Hermione, Nuna, Ronmione, etc. While others actually feel that these two may not be as well suited as everyone seems to think, diving into the very history that others feel brings them together. Many are not so quick to forgive Sirius for the incident wherein Black let slip Lupin's whereabouts to Snape on night of a transformation, which led to James having to save Snape, actions that had far-lasting repercussions, and many would argue most certainly not the actions of a friend, yet alone a lover. Others found Remus to be a cowardly character, unable to stand on his own, going along with his friends who were not the best for him, or at their worst could be considered as bullies, not necessarily of him, but of others. A prime example of how the exact same text can resonate different ways with different readers. However, regardless, this ship burns bright, and is one of the more prominent in the Harry Potter fandom, and because of the fates of both participants, one of the most creative. Many view Wolfstar as yet another missed opportunity within the book, and others, though they may love the pairing, feel that the text itself is fine, and that they have fandom to fill in all of those gaps. And with so many fans interested in so many different aspects of canon and the story, the fics are extremely varied and more produced each day. If one is looking to dive in, the amount can be overwhelming, and the fics vary depending upon the era. As with each new canon reveal, things change. With canon now essentially concluded, and Rowling stating there will be no more Harry Potter books at the time of this recording, there have been a surge of Nobody Dies fics. However, ficsits post Deathly Hallows and epilogue have abounded since the series' conclusion. It is indeed difficult to find people who are willing to admit that they enjoyed the epilogue. In short, if you're looking for fluff, dark fic, missing scene, smut, AU of any kind, you'll find it. It has memes, headcanons galore, and is regularly discussed with enthusiasm to this day. In short, it is a large, passionate community with all the joys and pitfalls that come with such status. And now, on to the plethora of questions. And you guys know I love it when you answer them all and add numbers. Were/are you guys Wolfstar shippers? And if so, what drew you to it? Was it the books? Was it the movies? Was it the fandom? Do you wish it was canon? And if so, would that make it more meaningful for for you? And would any of you who do ship it have preferred that it be made canon over Grindeldore? Or would you like both? Questions, questions, questions. And I can't wait to read all of your answers. And if you don't like Harry Potter at all, please feel free to write that down there too. I want to hear everything. Everything's cool as long as the opinions are respectful. Fandom can be fundom. This was a long time coming and we have a lot more Harry Potter ships to go, so please subscribe if you haven't already, and please do hit that bell notification so you never miss a vid. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to talk about shipping with me. I always appreciate it. And as always, I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye. This has been Shipper's Guide to the Galaxy. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Special thanks to all of my patrons, names on the side. And at the time of this recording, the vote is going on for next month's Patreon video, so head on over and check that out. And of course, as always, please stay tuned, for there are as many ships out there as there are stars in the sky.